Is New Year's. It's almost 3 p.m. Eastern on December 31st here in Boston, Massachusetts suburbs. So this is part two. I've decided kind of how I'm going to break it up. So this is going to take me to the end of my natural competitive career and what led to me deciding to use steroids, and then I think the next part we'll talk about my first year on drugs, how I got them, how I responded to them, all that stuff, because that'll be a good one, of course. So when last we spoke, I was talking about I had just done a couple natural shows. 1989 was the first year I started competing in an organization called the ANBC, American Natural Bodybuilding Conference. They did polygraph testing, lie detector tests. It was supposed to be natural for life. Not 1 year, 5 years, 7 years. You're supposed to be lifetime natural in that organization. And I was, and most of the people, nearly all the people I saw, I assumed they were as well. I didn't see too many fake natties or, people trying to pull a fast one on the promoters or the other competitors. So I had done a couple shows. Didn't learn a whole lot. I did learn that free weights weren't completely useless. Started using a mix of free weights and machines after being brainwashed for a couple of years into thinking Nautilus machines were the only things anybody with a mind, with a brain, should be training with. And I came to realize that was just sort of a marketing scheme from Arthur Jones, the inventor of Nautilus. They were great machines, don't get me wrong, but they weren't the end-all be-all. They weren't the only things you should be using. So I started mixing up, throwing some dumbbells in there. I joined a world gym in Newton, Mass. Started throwing some other movements in there, and immediately started to grow a little bit, not a lot, but I was definitely made some gains, which I hadn't made in a while. So I was excited about that. Only competed one more time on the East Coast before I left for California and didn't come back for 10 years. So that was 1990. I did another ANBC show. It was the Massachusetts State. It was at Natick High School, and they did not have a teenage class. They didn't even have a junior class. No, they didn't. I had to do men's open, and I was 20 years old, and there were like 15, 18 guys in my class. I'm sure I was somewhere toward the back of that pack as far as placing. I couldn't tell you where I placed, but if there were 18 guys, I was probably like 15th or 16th. I wasn't beating too many guys. And I also remember being a little discouraged because I was so young. I was 20. I figured, well, all these guys are much older, more experienced. Come to find out, there was a guy in my class named Tito Raymond, who was exactly my age. He took a very close second to the guy who won, Carlos Silva, who went on to do pretty well in WNBF as a natural pro. And Tito looked great back. 20 years old, he looked phenomenal already, pretty close to what he would look like a few years later when he was, on magazine covers, and he was in the pages of Muscle and Fitness and all these other magazines. So that was 1990 Mass State. Didn't do well. Still had no idea how to diet. Didn't know you're supposed to be doing cardio. Nothing. I had no idea how to prep because I had no information. There was no internet, and I didn't know anyone that competed. And didn't seek out anyone or a coach or anything. I just figured I should know all this. It should just come to me like out of the ether. I should just know how to get ready for shows, and I didn't. So that was the last time I competed for 2 years. January 1991, my life changed in a big way. I went out to finish school. Emerson College in Boston, where I attended, they had a program called the Emerson LA, where seniors would do their final semester. You got out to Los Angeles, and you would take 2 classes a week, and the rest of your time, you're supposed to do an internship somehow related to your field. And I was a film major, so I should have gone to like a movie production studio or something more related to film, but I'm already a meathead at this point competing. And I had seen this show on TV called American Muscle on ESPN, which I believe started in 1987. It was a very long-running show. It ran for over 10 years. And like I said before, it was a bodybuilding. It was a 1-hour magazine format show. It was very much like a muscle magazine, except in television format. There was contest coverage. There were athlete profiles. There were workout segments, cooking segments, gossip, news, fashion sometimes. It was a pretty cool show. So I wanted to be an intern on that show. So I made a demo reel on VHS, just slapped together a couple of things I had done in film school and, you know, my little resume. And the guy called me. His name was Lou Zwick. He called me in December of, this would have been 1990. We talked for a bit, and he said, yeah, come on out. You can intern at my company. It was called American Sports Network. So they did that show, and they also produced 1-hour specials, event specials for ESPN. So they would do 1-hour shows for like the Mr. Olympia, the Ms. Olympia, the men's NPC USA, the women's USA, Arnold Classic, things like that. So I was just supposed to be an intern. I was only supposed to be there like 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week. I ended up almost immediately being basically like a full-time employee. I mean, I still had to take the classes at Emerson, but all the rest of my time was basically over in this place in Rosemead, California, the San Gabriel Valley. One of the very first things they had me do, I got there in January. I drove cross country by myself, and listen to this. I went from Boston to LA in 2.5 days by myself because I could not sleep. This is in a Ford Mustang LX, unfortunately. It wasn't a GT. So I got there, and one of the very first things, it might have been the first day I got there, he said they were getting the Ms. Olympia, the 1990 Ms. Olympia that had happened like a couple months before. They were doing the post-production on that, which was going to air like in mid-January, and they needed some more voiceovers. They had me writing scripts for the voiceovers for that 1-hour show, which was, you know, pretty amazing. Here I am, this 21-year-old kid still in college, and he trusted me to do that right away because I think I'd sent a couple writing samples. They could tell I could write. Anyway, so that was, I started with that company, and I did a lot of gopher stuff, a lot of driving, delivering, picking up videotapes, taking to this edit bay and things like that, and immediately started going on shoots with the producers where they would film workouts, film contests, and the very first contest I attended that we were covering for the show was this was 1991 Los Angeles Championships. And the LA, as they called it back in those days, they called it the LA. The LA and the Cal were the two big amateur shows in California. It was the LA Championships, obviously, and the California Championships. These are titles that like Sean Ray had won, Flex Wheeler had won, Chris Cormier had won. And at the LA, it was going to be the open men debut of this former teenage star named Dennis Newman, who was my age. He was 21. So I picked him up. He lived in Northern California. I picked him up from the airport, LAX, took him to his hotel. I think he was going through my car looking for cassettes to pose to at the Cal because the contest was a couple days later, or at the LA Championships. I think he ended up taking second or third as a men's heavyweight. He was still very much a kid. He turned pro like 2 years later. Dennis would have been great, but he got leukemia. Anyway, so I started going to the shows, all the local shows. That we covered a lot of shows. We used to go to, we would sit there with the video camera. We would film the shows and then do the highlights on the 1-hour show for shows like the Cal, the Orange County, the Palm Springs, the LA, Tournament of Champions. LA had the Southern California had a lot of shows back then. So I got to know everybody really quickly, all the local competitors, a bunch of the pros, and I started, of course, in January '91. I started going to Gold's Gym Venice as my gym. I had a friend named Mike McGuire who was from my hometown who had moved out to LA a year prior to that. No, a few years prior to that. What am I saying? And I had actually stayed at his place for a brief time in 88, that summer when I was there. Anyway, he was a member of Gold's, and he tried to get me a deal anyway. Anyway, I started training at Gold's. Gold's Gym in 1991, Gold's Gym Venice. It was crazy. It was like walking into a magazine. It was so many pros. I'm going to try to remember some of them. Flex Wheeler trained there, Chris Cormier, Jim Quinn, Mike Quinn, Lou Ferrigno was in there, Aaron Baker, a lot of the pros. I can't even remember all of them. There were tons of pros anytime you walked in there. And I would go after work. So during the weekday, I would go it was about a half-hour drive from where I lived in Rosemead out to Venice, west on the 10 freeway. So I would usually get there around 6, 7 o'clock at night, and there would still be a good amount of pros in there, even at that hour. And on the weekends, I would go there earlier. And of course, we used to shoot a lot of our workout segments at different gyms around the area. Gold's Venice was one. We shot a lot more at World Gym in Venice than we did in Gold's for the TV show American Muscle. And the reason was Joe Gold, the late Joe Gold, who was the owner, he's the one who founded both Gold's Gym and World Gym. But he founded that World Gym Venice. He built that basically to be their flagship, and also for his home base. For him, he was always there at the front desk, or a lot of the time. His old friends from the old days, the bodybuilding stars of the 50s and 60s, a lot of them would hang out there, shoot the shit with Joe all day. Just a lot of cool guys. Irving Zabo, who was in Cheech and Chong Nice Dreams. He was at the front desk a lot of time. Anyway, Joe didn't allow music. Gold's had music blasting. And for us to do our workouts and to be able to hear the bodybuilder speaking between sets and everything, and just to hear them, you had to have the music down very low. In Gold's, we always had issues trying to get them to turn the music down because it's a huge gym with hundreds of people working out, and it wasn't really cool for us to turn the music way down. And this is before people didn't really have, there was no earbuds and stuff. You know, people had the Sony Walkman and stuff, but people didn't have earbuds and wireless and all that crap back then. So for us to turn down the music, a lot of people would get upset about it. Anyway, but World Gym, it was never a problem because there was no music allowed anyway. It was like a church in there. It was perfectly quiet. Joe used to kick people out if they dropped weights and made noise, or grunted, screamed and stuff. He didn't like a lot of noise. Anyway, so we did a lot of shooting there. We'd go down to Gold's in Fullerton, which later became Coliseum Gym that Milos Sarshev owned. We did some filming there, and I was also you could use your Gold's membership at a few different places. So they would let us, I used to go down to there on the weekends a lot, to the Fullerton Gym, where like Sean Ray was training there, Patrick Lynn, Troy Zucolato, Greg Reed, Iris Kyle, a very young, unknown Iris Kyle was training there back then. It was a cool, really cool gym down there too. That was in Fullerton, California. So I immediately became immersed in the whole bodybuilding scene in 1991. Here I am from, this kid from Boston out there. It was like Disneyland to me, even though the actual Disneyland was there in California. But Gold's Gym Venice was just so cool back then. And just to meet all these pros, man, I was a fanboy. I was really a fanboy of these people because I had seen them in the magazines. And man, like just another example, in 91, around April or May, we were commissioned to do the training video that would come along with the Twin Lab Mass Fuel kit. So if you bought this kit, you'd get this big bucket of Twin Lab Mass Fuel weight gainer, which was like 5,000 calories a serving. You'd get a box of their Mass Gain bars, and you got this videotape with Lee Haney, who was a spokesman for, Twin Lab had him under contract. They had just signed him at the time, and everyone was like, oh no, he's going to lose the Olympia now because he left Weider, which he didn't. He won his 8th. So April or May of that year, we shot that video down at a place called Sequoia Athletic Club, somewhere in Orange County. Can't remember where. So I was a production assistant on that, hanging around watching, at that time, 7-time Mr. Olympia show everyone how to do all the basic exercises. And it was pretty cool. So that was a really, I was very, very fortunate because Gold's Venice, the whole Venice Beach scene back then, it was, it's never going to be duplicated. You'll never see it again. You had Gold's Venice here. You had World Gym 2 blocks that way. And the other direction from Gold's, you had the Firehouse Restaurant. You had a Max Muscle retail store. You had a couple other retail stores like Hot Skins. All these places that sold bodybuilder clothes, the big sweatshirts, the tights, the string tank tops. They would sell supplements. I mean, it was like bodybuilder heaven. And then, I'd go on I spent so many weekends on Venice Beach. Loved the boardwalk, thousands and thousands of people just walking up and down the boardwalk. And they had the outdoor gym. I trained at a few times. There would be contests at that outdoor gym. They still do. The Muscle Beach contest, which is unsanctioned. It's not NPC. It's actually just promoted by the City of Los Angeles Parks and Recreational Department. But I competed in that thing several times. I won my class in 95. But it was every Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day. They would have contests there for free. It's free bleachers. People could sit there and watch on the little stage. It was, I'll tell you, man, these are golden times. I really missed them, and I'm really grateful I got to experience them. To be in Los Angeles in the 90s, it was sort of the end of an era. Because, back then, people came from all over the world. They called it the Mecca, Venice, because people came from all around the world to train there, to be seen, to be photographed, to have photographers notice them, magazine publishers, supplement company owners, because most of the business was based in Los Angeles at that time. You had the Weider Building in Woodland Hills. Iron Man magazine was down in Marina del Rey. All the photographers that you saw their work in the magazines, most of them lived in LA or Orange County, and you would see them in the front row at all the contests. You had the Pro Ironman Invitational held there every spring. In addition to all those really good, the quality of the shows like the LA and the Cal was like, it was like national level. Most of the people that won the Cal back in that era went on to become pros. Because if you could win the California, you were typically good enough to be a pro, because a lot of people in the Cal weren't originally from California. They were great bodybuilders from Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, wherever, Michigan, and they came out to live in LA and be bodybuilders and, you know, perfect their craft. You had a hotel called Marina Pacific. Wasn't that what it was called? Marina Pacific Hotel, which was like 2 blocks away from Gold. It was in between Gold's and World Gyms. And that's where a lot of the people coming from other parts of the country and other parts of the world, they would stay there. All the rooms had kitchens. It was right on the boardwalk, right? You know, you could see the beach from, if you're on the right side of the hotel, I guess. So it was, man, it was really cool. So many memories from that era. I remember, like I said, I did start producing segments pretty early on, because the 2 guys, Tim and Phil, that were the producers, they started doing work for other companies, and I had to fill in a lot. So I ended up becoming a producer at 21 years old, shooting these workouts, going to the contests, and supervising the camera operators, doing the interviews. So man, I've been in this is 1991, 1992, so I've been around a long ass time. So the urge to compete didn't strike me again until 92. The ANBC had a California championships, of all things. Like I told you, they were mostly East Coast, but they had started trying to branch out. And they had a California championships in San Diego. And typical idiot shit that I was doing back then. I was like 225, 230 in the off season, natural and fat. So you can imagine, I'm like 225 and lean now, but this is after many years of drugs. Back then I was a 225, 230. I had like, you know, bakings of a double chin, little jelly rolls around my middle, dimples on my fat ass. So I would go from that to, I figured 8 weeks is good enough time to diet. So I used to diet for like 8 weeks. I'd go from 230 to like 180 in 8 weeks, and it wasn't good. I mean, I didn't have a lot of muscle. I thought I did. Then I would diet off all the fat. Not all of it. I still didn't get in shape in 92. Still hadn't figured it out yet. Didn't do well at that show. I had to do junior division. Yes, because I was 22. Anyway, didn't do that well. 93, I did a BCC. That was another organization. They were all out on the West Coast. It was the late Jack O'Blennis ran it. ABCC, what the hell did that even stand for? I don't know. American Bodybuilding. It was natural. It was another thing. It was drug tested. I only did one of their shows. I did their Los Angeles Championships in February of 93. And I just remember the stupid protocol that, I won't say his name. He's a good dude, and he meant well. But he told 178 to like 158 in 2 days. I lost like 20 pounds of water. And I didn't need to lose, I probably didn't need to lose any water. I just needed to lose a little more fat. I came in pretty good shape. I took second out of 2. See, full disclosure. A lot of these people, they'll tell you I got second place or third place. They don't tell you there was only 2 or 3 people. They don't tell you they got last place. I'm telling you, I got second out of 2. And he didn't even win the overall. The guy that won the overall, Mike Williams, he actually got disqualified a couple days later, not because of a drug test, because he never paid for anything. He was supposed to pay for a membership to the organization, supposed to pay to enter the contest, and he told the promoter, "Oh, I don't have the money. I'll give you the money Sunday." He never gave him the money, so they stripped him of his title. Sorry, dude. I remember he had a really good upper body. He had no legs. I remember talking to him. He said he only trained every once in a while when he felt like it. He was just had decent genetics. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So that was the only show I did in 93. 94, I did 2 shows. I did the Ironman Naturally, the first one that they ever had. It was won by Skip LaCour. Again, I did not get in very good shape for that. I got in a little better shape for another ANBC California that was a couple weeks later. Got second again out of, were there only 2 of us? I don't know. The guy that beat me fair and square. He looked way better than I did. He had a bunch of people with T-shirts with his name on it. So there you go. That was 93, 94, and 95 was my last year of competing naturally. I didn't go on drugs yet for a couple more years, but it was the last time I competed naturally. I did the Ironman naturally. Took second out of, I don't know, there were like 7 or 8 light heavies. I had done the one in Las Vegas, the Ironman Naturally Las Vegas, as a warm-up like a month before that. Took second to my chiropractor, Rich Sage. And did I do one more show in 95? I did the Muscle Beach show as a warm-up, and I won my class out of, it was only like 3 guys. But yeah, so that was the end of my competitive career as a natural. And at that point, I was already starting to think, I knew the guy that had beat me at the Ironman Naturally Los Angeles. His name was Carl List. His younger brother, Arnie, was a really good national level competitor. They were both from Vermont. Anyway, Carl was a really good personal trainer at Gold's Venice. But I know he had used steroids before, and he had been bigger. But in my mind, he only beat me because he had used steroids before. So my plan started percolating in my little peanut brain. I started thinking, maybe I could just do steroids once, put on enough muscle so that I would keep most or something, you know, I was hoping I'd keep it all, but I think even then I knew that wasn't realistic. But then I could go back to being natural, because these NPC tested shows like the Ironman Naturally, you only had to be drug-free for 1 year. So I figured maybe I'll go on drugs for a year, and then come off for a year, and I'll come back and I'll kick everyone's ass naturally. It didn't happen that way, obviously, but that was the where it all originated. For as far as, I was like a really holier than thou natural. I was like preachy about it. I made sure everyone knew I was natural. I looked down on people that use drugs, and I was never ever going to use them. It wasn't even a health thing. It was like a moral thing. It was like a matter of pride. Like, I did this all myself with no chemical enhancement, and I was very, very much. I had planned to stay natural for life, which did not happen, but I didn't start steroids until beginning of 97, and that'll be my next video. So for now, I should probably have a little time before I need to eat again. Yeah, always gotta eat. So let me get to your questions, guys, your questions and comments before we say goodbye for 2021. And what do we got for me? What do you guys got for me? Let's see. First question or comment is, good afternoon, sir. Hey, James Gary from Bayshore Athletic Club. Mass Monster clothing. Yeah, you can put a little link to that if you want there, James. Maybe someone will check it out. Happy New Year from Ireland. Dylan, you want to hear my Irish accent? I'm sure you do. It's very quick. It's from an old Bugs Bunny cartoon. The cop says, "You might, Robert, you might." That's all I got for you. Sako Genesian. Good friend of Dr. T here in Boston. If you're Armenian, which from the name it sounds like you might be, I could say Pare Vishpesas, which is hello, how are you in Armenian. Big Ron, wishing you a Happy New Year. I worked at Waltham Hospital too. Started my journey at the YMCA next to Waltham High. Wow, that's, I never trained. I saw that gym once, the YMCA next to Waltham High. Never trained there. I think they had some pretty good equipment. Hormaxer. What do you think of what dose of test is a cycle? Well, 200 milligrams, 100 to 200 is TRT. So I'd say anything over like 250 a week, there's a cycle. I don't know if that was your question or not. James Gary, Casey Viator was a spokes athlete for Nautilus Machines for the Colorado experiment by the creator. Yeah. Casey Viator was a great bodybuilder in the late 70s and the early 80s. Trained very similar to the way like the Mentor brothers did. And that experiment was very famous because they had him regain like 70 pounds of lost muscle that he had lost from not training for over a year. And he did it in like a month, and he did it with, I think, 3 20-minute workouts a week on Nautilus machines. So that was like a big, big marketing scheme for Nautilus. Dr. Steve, Happy New Year, Ron. Any big plans for Bodybuilding 2022? Maybe MC some big shows? No, I'm not an MC. Come on, I'm not an MC. Giles Thomas, my buddy in the UK, he has MC'd a couple shows. He's very good at it. Saw some footage. Of course, we got Bob Chick. We got Billy Garnon. Got some great MCs out there. They don't need me. Sako again. Boston Pro coming up February. Tickets going on sale tomorrow. Yeah, I'm very excited about the Boston Pro. It was supposed to happen both in 2020 and 2021. Unfortunately, with all the COVID and pandemic and everything, it didn't happen those years. It's supposed to be the week after the Arnold Classic in Columbus. It's going to be here in Boston. We're going to get a lot of the same competitors. You already got like Ronnie Coleman coming out here at the show to appear. Phil Heath, Jay Cutler. Should be a really cool show. It's at the Boston Sheraton Hotel. Anyway, BostonProShow.com on Instagram, I believe. James Gary again. Have a happy and safe New Year celebration, everyone. Yeah, absolutely. Stay safe everyone. Dr. Steve, I remember Dennis Newman when he beat the cancer, made a cool appearance at the 96 Olympia in Chicago. He took off his shirt, hit some shots when college going on stage. No, actually, I was there, and my boss orchestrated that whole scenario, the shenanigans there. So what happened was Dennis had turned pro. Then shortly after he was diagnosed with leukemia. Went through all kinds of chemo and all that. Went to remission, got healthy again, got pretty much most of his muscle back. But the IFBB did not want to let him compete because this is a guy that just beat cancer, and God forbid anything worse happens to him. They didn't want the negative publicity. They didn't want it on their heads if, God forbid, anything happened to Dennis after that. So they would not reinstate his pro card. So as a sign of protest, basically, and like my boss Lou was behind this. During the 96 Olympia, while the guys were up on stage, Dennis, it wasn't just a shirt off. He was in legit posing trunks, like he was going to compete. I think he even had some fake tan on. He ran down the middle of the aisle and in the middle of the crowd while the guys were in judging, started hitting shots. And I remember, Lou was in the back. We were shooting this for a 1 hour special, the 96 Olympia. And I had the headsets on. You could hear both the TV crew, which, I was part of the TV crew, and you could also hear, I think you could hear some of the IFBB officials. And Wayne D'Amelia went ballistic. Steve Weinberger, they wanted to kill Lou because, dude, he just messed up the Olympia. It really was uncalled for. He really shouldn't have done it, but it is what it is. It was a weird experience, but everyone that was there certainly remembers that when Dennis Newman basically crashed the Olympia prejudging, hit some shots in the crowd, and then he got chased out, basically. Yeah, good times. What else we got? Sean Ray looked pissed. Go figure. Oh, I mean, they were all upset. I mean, it wasn't cool. It wasn't really cool. They're up there trying to win the most important contest on the planet, and someone's clowning them by running around the audience hitting poses because we as a sign of protest because they wouldn't let him compete. Anyway, I'm a proud gay patriot. Awesome. James Gary, we have potential to do that in Massachusetts. I think we have great athletes here on the East Coast. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Palumboism? I mean, I don't know if it's always from GH. So Palumboism, I'm not even sure what it's supposed to be. Is it supposed to be when your midsection stays big and your limbs get smaller? Or I think some people use it as just an interchangeable term for acromegaly. Acromegaly? I don't even know how it's pronounced. Acromegaly is what like Andre the Giant, a lot of these people who are their pituitary gland malfunction, pumped out way too much test, and they became very tall, and they got this massive jaw, big fat nose, big brow ridge, like a Cro-Magnon caveman. Dave sort of had that look, obviously, and a lot of the people who have abused growth hormone have that same facial appearance. I'm not sure what the question. Honestly, I'm not even sure what. It's not an actual dictionary term, so that's it. I mean, my gut's gotten much bigger over the years, and I didn't start using GH myself until February of this year, so I can't blame it on GH. Didn't use insulin. I used insulin for one winter, turned into a fat slob. If you go to my at Ron Harris Muscle on Instagram, I posted a picture up from New Year's 2014 into 2015. So it would have been 8 years ago. So that was the winter that I was on insulin, and God, I got fat. God, I was a fat slob. I was like 240. I got to 247, 248, but you'll see my face was my head was perfectly round. My cheeks were like I had a softball on each cheek. It's disgusting. That's not real. I don't know if he meant Palumboism isn't real. My favorite bodybuilder's on now here. Is that me? Oh, awesome. Frank Rizzo, no gays. What do you mean, no gays? Thanks, Ron. You're really doing good. Thank you. Are you the Frank Rizzo from the Jerky Boys? You guys remember the Jerky Boys? T-shirts, you say? Says James Gary. Yeah, James sells these cool Mass Monster. MONSTAH, because that's how we say it in the Boston area, Monster. Scissors, it says scissors. Worcester, on paper, we say Worcester. Yeah, we have our own ways of saying a lot of things. Nice lift frag. 315. Now you're arguing whether palumboism is a real thing. I work on jerky boys. Ron, favorite pizza place? I'm not like a gourmet. I'm not going to drive like an hour or 2 hours to some pizza. I mean, I'm in Stoughton, Mass. There's a place called Town Spa Pizza that people come from all around the area to eat there. They're the real thin crust, smaller pizzas, but they're delicious. Yeah, I'm not that picky with pizza. You know, I'll even eat Domino's, which, you know, real pizza aficionados will be like, oh, Domino's is disgusting. I'll eat almost any kind of pizza, man. I love pizza. Anything else? Anything else? James Gary eating a great Fu Manchu. What the F happened to Mark Dugdale? See on what? Road rage murder? What? Oh, now this is the first I've heard about it. What? Huh. Andrew, happy New Year to you too. Stovall, is the Olympic going to rotate Orlando and Las Vegas? That is the plan that I'm hearing is the plan. So this year it's back in Vegas for the first time since 2019. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Even though I'm not a big Vegas fan, because it's a city where you can't really enjoy Vegas the way you should unless you're a very wealthy person. It's a city for the very wealthy. You know, it's their playground basically. If you're just some average middle class, upper middle class guy like me, you know, it's not as fun because you just don't have money to blow. You know, you can't be throwing thousands of dollars like crazy out at people, like strippers and hooker. You know. God. How'd you know that place sucked? I went to Super Fitness once I turned 18. Super Fitness was where? I don't even know where that was. Dugdale, now Betty White. Dugdale died? Mark Dugdale died? This is the first I'm hearing about it, if this is true. That's terrible. Mark's a good dude, or was a good dude if he's gone. That's terrible. 3 daughters? 2, 3? Jeez, I gotta look into this now, guys. Oh, wow. Hormaxer. Do you really gain muscle 500 meg of tests? What do you think of bodybuilders saying they built their physique on 250 tests? They're probably lying. PDs and all the soy, I'll need a bra soon. Yeah. Stop eating all that soy. Why are you eating so much soy? Dr. Steve, yeah, from the crowd. It was a long time ago. Thanks for all the info. Good pics with him. Happy New Year, Ron. Happy New Year. Is there a lot of homosexuality in pro bodybuilding? No more so than in any other sport or anything. No, I mean, it's, you know, for many decades, gay men were big supporters of the sport, bought the tickets, bought the videos that people would sell, the pictures, the merchandise. Yeah, because, you know, gay men are fans of beautiful men's physiques. So there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? Big Show WWE wrestling got huge like the giant. New Year's resolution, try not to get fat. That's a good one. If you got GH gut palumboism, I'd like to know if you have shrunken height, lost weight, or lost height. I mean, I've only been on it less than a year. I don't think I've gotten any shorter. I've been getting shorter bit by bit over the past like 5-6 years, but I think that's unfortunately just natural aging. I was 5'8.5" in my 20s and 30s, and I'm down to 5'7.5" now. Hopefully I don't get any shorter than this. My goodness. Peanut intermittent fasting, says Mario Ultimate Art. Not a fan. That's just me. I think there's some studies out there now that shows it'll cause you to lose muscle, but I don't do well with not eating for hours and hours and hours. That's just me. It's a chore to eat every 2 to 3 hours, but I do it, and I function very well on that. Super Fitness was in Quincy Center. Yeah, that's right. I went there once. This is like 2 levels. A lot of cool equipment. What do I think? More plates, more dates. Derek, very, very knowledgeable guy. Comes up with awesome content, obviously. He's got like almost 1 million subscribers, or does he have 1 million now? So all his videos get between 100 and 500,000 views. So, and he was on Joe Rogan. So obviously Derek's doing a lot, and he owns a TRT clinic. He's killing it, and he's not even 30, I don't think. So good for him, man. Get nice lines made. How long do you plan to run Juice? What age? Till they put me in the ground. How's that? Yeah, sorry. I mean, as long as my health is still doing well, my blood work, my heart, I don't use a lot. For me, it's not a lot. I go by my health markers. If I saw something happening with my blood work or my heart scans, I would definitely reconsider and I'd go down to true TRT for the rest of my life. But as of now, I'm doing well. Says Watertown too. Yeah, there's that Super Fitness. They did an NPC seminar on Jay Cutler there a few years ago. Getting shorter might have to do with the gut growing. How? No. How are those two things connected? I don't even get the logic there. Ronnie Coleman is hobbled like Earl Campbell. Bummer. Incline chest machine there was incredible. Super. Derek has over 1 million subs now. Yeah, good. And I mean, you know, I also like Greg Doucette, Coach Greg. I'm a big fan of his too. I actually enjoy his videos more just because of his delivery style is more entertaining to me. And, you know, Derek's very, very knowledgeable, but he's not as entertaining to listen to. And I do like to be entertained while I'm learning. So Coach Greg, I'm a big fan of Coach Greg Doucette. But Derek, more plates, more dates. He's killing it. He's doing a great job. Can't hate on the guy. Greg video about Derek was funny. Derek skipped leg day. Yeah, all right, guys. I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to go eat a meal, go walk my dog, get his cookbook, get my damn, what do you say? Get my friggin' cookbook. I love that. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll do a part 3 where I'll talk about going over to the dark side, first cycle, how I got the drugs, what it was like using them, and the results I got. That should be part 3. I don't think I'm going to need more than 4 of these. I'll try to limit it. So anyway, stay safe out there tonight, guys. Have fun. Enjoy responsibly. Please don't drink and drive. Please don't smoke weed and drive. Have a designated driver or use an Uber or something like that. I want you all to make it to 2022 safe and sound. We don't need any more death in this industry. So everybody be safe. Enjoy yourselves. But yeah, please be safe. Appreciate you guys watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. If you like the videos, hit that little thumbs up to like thing. That's the algorithm. We need that, right? So that's it. Appreciate it. Happy New Year, guys. Love y'all. Bye-bye.